Sometimes the episodes is just not enough. You need weekly information sent to you on top of these episodes, so make sure you subscribe. But if you want weekly tips, weekly updates straight to your inbox, make sure you message. Follow us, come on over.
Welcome to It's Just Different podcast, where we bring on people who have helped get you to where you want to go or have been a part of the journey. We normally bring on college coaches, directors, and people in the community. But today, we got the parents. We have the parents of some of the top kids in the country. And we only got 30 minutes. So I'm going to cut the introduction short and let them introduce themselves and tell you the name of their player and the team they play with.
Joshua Macon. I'm the father of Rieyan DeSouze. She plays for Team Lex.
Amber Mathurin, McKenzie Mathurin is my daughter. She plays for Team Trae Young.
Haskell Abii, father of Jacy Abii. She plays for IFN. It's Fox Nation.
Chris Mathurin, father of McKenzie Mathurin, Team Trae Young.
So we got Trae Young, IFN, and Trae Young. What made you guys choose the program you with?
Okay, for me, it was with Amber. I've been knowing Amber for a while. She was coaching Swift, and I wanted a different look for Rieyan. Rieyan was originally with Team Lex. I love Joey Simmons. I love the program, but I wanted something different for a challenge, playing with older players like Kenzie, like Keziah. I never felt Rieyan was in a position to be challenged by older girls. I felt like she always played with her peers and was equal, and I definitely wanted her to get that feel of playing with kids that's just as competitive, just as talented, and won't listen to her at the same time challenge her so she get ready for college level. Because when she get older and she get to that freshman level, she's going to have to deal with that conflict or deal with a talented player who, I'm older than you, I know more than you. So outside of that, I just thought going to Oklahoma would take her out of her comfort zone and put in just a more competitive environment.
My journey is obviously a little bit different. My daughter played for me since she was in the second grade, so we kind of flipped from Oklahoma Swift from an independent to jump on the circuit. So I had to sit down with my daughter at the dinner table and ask her, are you good with moving from a program that was built on your back to a new program and to be challenged with bigger and better players, and especially players like Keziah, and bringing on Rieyan, bringing on Maddie Stewart, bringing on some of the top players in the country to play with her. We were never in that position before. She was a big fish in a small pond, and so this was an opportunity for her to be a big fish with other big fish and challenge her game this year. With the circuit, I feel like stats, things like that, are more monitored than they are on the independent circuit. So our decision was, very similar to Josh. It was, how do you want to be able to play with other good players to challenge your game. And I felt like her game, what the biggest fear for me as a parent was, and a coach and a director, is my players becoming stagnant. And you become stagnant when you don't put yourself in an environment to be challenged. So us going to Trae Young was an opportunity to be challenged, bringing on another point guard and pushing my daughter to an off guard, bringing on Keziah Lofton, who's a wing, and allowing my daughter to play as a true shooting guard was an opportunity to grow her game. And so that was our biggest reason to kind of move from, Swift to Trae Young. And then, of course, that gave me an opportunity to bring on players like Keziah Lofton and Rieyan and Maddie Stewart and Maya Thompson, just some big-time players we have in our program. Soleil stayed on and developed her game. And I think the biggest challenge for a lot of players right now is putting yourself in an uncomfortable environment. And anytime you're uncomfortable, it's an opportunity for growth. And so I wanted my daughter to feel as uncomfortable as possible so that she could grow her game. Because at the end of the day, this is about her playing college. Like, this is not about right now. It's about the next level. And we're on a 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan is for her to play. And definitely to play as a freshman. So that was our biggest reason to kind of move. That was our biggest reason to be part of Trae Young and to have a big platform. So
I'll give you the answer from the dad's perspective. Dad here in the background, as one may say. So, cut a long story short, it's always kind of been a year-by-year plan, and I like to say that we didn't choose the team chose us. So what I mean by that is, as we have young kids, they're always going through these seasons. So it starts off with little church league, where the rims are real low, and we're like, wow, McKenzie's dunking on everybody at 5 years old. So then it's time to reevaluate and then move up. So every time that season changed, we had to sit back as a family and be like, okay, what is the best position to put our kid where she can continue to grow? So we went on another team for a short period of time. It wasn't a great fit, but it got her to that next level as far as development goes. And then we kind of just went on from there. So whenever there was an opportunity for growth and a good opportunity, then we just kind of moved on from there. So
I'll start off by saying for Jacy, it's a little different from what you guys have just heard. She was blessed at an early age to play with a lot of great talent, tremendous talent. If I started naming them, it might take me a minute, but she played with a lot of great talent, won AAU Nationals, I think, 6th grade, and she reached the point, and I'm going to piggyback off what he said, as far as every year you should evaluate where your kid is to determine does she needs to stay put, or does she need to make another move, do something different for growth reasons. And she got comfortable playing with a lot of great talent. And it wasn't until we did something a little different, put her in a position where she was a little uncomfortable, where she had to actually lead a lot more. And when it comes to rebounding, defense had to go up. Everything had to come up for her to give that team a chance to win. And I think it's worked out for her. And so it's a little different for her, I think, just from the standpoint that she knows what it's like to play with great talent, and then she had to learn what it was like to carry a team. And as a dad, that was tough for me because Coach Dre thought she was ready for it, and apparently she was. So even when I was unsure, I saw it. It was a struggle at first, and then halfway through that first summer where she had to carry a team, she started to figure some things out. And in 8th grade, went down to New Orleans and played Team Durant 17U EYBL. They were missing one of their players due to USA. And that was the game that showed me, okay, this was the right move for her. She's figuring it out. She's going from uncomfortable with carrying to also she's getting to the point where she's learning to carry. So it was a little different, but it's been great.
Now, collectively, you guys have been with multiple programs. Can y'all still hear? Are we good? Tess, can we hear? Y'all been with multiple programs, whether it was Lex, Oklahoma Swift, Trae Young, Sci-Fair, etc. What red flags should parents look out for when trying to choose a program?
Okay, red flags can be presented in multiple ways. Honestly, the direction should always be in the focus point of your kid. Put in a situation where she's going to excel, grow her game, get the right exposure, great coaching, whatever you're looking for, and what you need your kid individually growing. For as red flags, I think I heard some stuff from the last interview. More people that's more for themselves to gain than a kid. Just things that's just not proactive for your kid to continue to grow as a collegiate athlete or potentially playing in the game. Lack of exposure is one. Money grabs and how just things are presented to you, but it should always be in the balance and the focus of your kid for her individual game to grow, especially whatever level she's trying to play it at, be it just collegiate, be it a pro, but step by step, she does need to make sure that she's on track to her individual growth, and not just for what's best for the organization or what's best for that team.
I would say, as a director, some of the red flags for me that I really watch out for, just as a director at the top, is coaching experience. So your very first red flag should always be, what experience is at the head. And if the head is, got what is needed to develop your player, then it should, kind of like piggybacking on what Josh said, it should carry over into their development. That's the number one for me is you've got to have that at the top. If you don't have it at the top, then why are you doing it? The players next to your daughter, do they bring value? Those are other things that you should watch out for. If you're trying to push your daughter to the next level, are there players in the team that have the ability to do that for them, to challenge them in practice, because practice is really important. Another red flag is, do they practice? I mean, that's really, really important as well. Do they get their practices in that they need to be successful during the summer? And I would say another huge red flag is, piggybacking again on what Josh said, is, are they doing it for the right reasons? And are you able to genuinely see that in them? And you can only do that by, sitting down, having an honest conversation. Are they up front? Are they honest with you? Are they transparent with the process? I think those are just things you should look out for, but I would definitely say it all starts at the top. So, if the top is solid, I feel like things should fall into place for your kid, because they're going to be hunting like-minded players that are right next to your daughter. And so if, for me, I hunt players that are genuine, I hunt players that work hard, I hunt players that are very similar to my personality. So usually your coach's personality is going to reflect the team. So I always am like, just start from the top and then kind of do your research from there. So
Haskell, I'll get to you in just a minute. I wanna go to you real quick, Amber, because you're saying the top. Do you feel, because I feel like sometimes you can have a director, let's say Amber is the director, she's at the top, but Ashley is coaching the 16U team, and Ashley is not doing what she needs to do, and Ashley is not talking to the coaches or whatever the case may be, and Amber's focused on the whole program. Like, can you talk about that for a little bit? Because I see a lot of parents get into that. Like, they might really like the director, or they might really like the 17's coach, but it's not their coach. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
yeah, that is actually a challenge, I think, for every program. I do not feel like there's very rare that there is a program that just is immaculate at the 17, 16, 15. It's very rare. So really, when you're looking at a program, you talk about like his daughter that's playing, 15, was 15 when she's playing 17U, probably 14U playing 17U. And I know even for Ryan, she was playing up a couple grades. So I think it comes down to that fit and you doing your research from the director to the head coach that you're going to have. And also one of the other big red flags is what experience does that 16U coach have? Are they a high school coach? Do they have the ability to walk through that communication issue? Do they have the experience when it comes to communication with parents when there is conflict? Because there will be conflict. If you walk in any environment in the game of basketball right now in grassroots and think there's going to be zero conflict, you're setting yourself up and your player up for failure every time. So having that type of expectation is just, it's not feasible. And so walking in with understanding how do we handle that conflict, how do you teach your daughter to walk through that conflict, and then you got to know when it's time to walk away. And so that's going to be, to me, that's key. And I've had players walk away, and I've had players that have stayed the course. And it's no knock on that parent when it doesn't play out or they don't have that. I mean, because you're trying to put a family together that they don't even know each other. They don't live together. They don't know what goes on behind closed doors. They're having to build trust like as fast as you are. And so everyone is in the same boat. So how do those families, in my opinion, handle conflict? And if you can get the right group of kids together, maybe the coach isn't perfect. Maybe they don't check every single box, and that's okay. Because if they're checking every box, they're coaching at UConn. They're coaching at Duke. They're out coaching at the highest level. They're coaching 17U because they check the box. So walking in thinking a coach is going to check all the boxes, it's just not going to work out for you. I would say, but do they check your non-negotiable boxes? Do they have high character? Do they show up? Are they coaching your kid hard? Do you have players around your daughter that is going to develop and get them better as well? So are they checking the right boxes? But there is no chance that you're going to walk into 15, 16U at any level. I don't care if you're wearing Trae Young. I don't care if you're wearing Swift or IFN or whoever. They're not going to check every box for every single parent. And so I would just say my feedback is always just communicate through it before it gets out of hand. Like, don't let little things just stack, until you have like broken a team because of your negativity, because your lack of ability to communicate your feelings and what you're going through. And so that would be my best advice is, there isn't a perfect situation. So it would just be learn how to teach your child to communicate through it. And you as a parent, grow up. Grow up and have the conversation.
That's good. Haskell, any red flags parents?
I'll be quick because I love everything they said. But from a red flag standpoint, the things that come to mind for me would be character of the coaches, directors. Communication is important for me. But probably the single most important thing is who do I have my daughter around, and that's not going to change. She's going to make her college decision, but she's got her dad in the background going to constantly tell her who are you surrounding yourself with, because I believe I'm really big with her as far as communicating to her how important it is to build a network, and I think it starts now at the AAU ball, so the character and just the ability for the staff or the organization just being able to communicate.
I'm going to go back to you real quick, Amber, then I'm coming to you, Josh. As a program director, and talking to all of y'all, it's hard to get kids into school now. It is very hard. With the portal, with everything going on, it is hard for high school kids to get into school. As a program director, how do you navigate advocating for your kids? And I'm talking, you got high-level kids, you got mid-major kids, you got D2 kids. Like, what are you doing to make sure your kids are getting recruited?
That's a very open-ended question. So sorry, I'm talking the most out of the panel. I feel like, number one, it's a great example is when Rieyan came on, and I give Rieyan as one of my examples because I have many of them, but when she came on, she had multiple offers when she walked in my door. And so, that I can't lay claim to. My job is to take her from where she's at, right, and take her to the next level. So meet her where she's at. So my job to meet her where she's at is to make sure all those schools are still on board with her, make sure that I'm doing everything I can to, be on the same page with them. So so many things can be resolved with communication. So I'll give an example. There was a coach specifically that I reached out to. I shot him a text last week, and I said, hey, when you get a chance before July gets away from me, give me a shout. And he called me that evening. This is a pretty big-time school. And he said, Coach, you have no clue how many coaches do not initiate the conversation.
That's what I was looking for right there.
And so that is, if anything, it's just work. I mean, I don't know. I recruit girls to play in my program that work as hard as I do. You better meet me where I'm at, but I'm going to give you what you give me. And so I know that Ryan's on my court busting her butt every time. She'll run through a brick wall for me. So what's my job? My job is to bust through brick walls for her when we're not playing, when people aren't watching. And so reaching out to coaches, I just shoot a text, like, call me, you call me. What does tell me a lot is when they do call me, I know the importance level of that player to that coach straight out the gate. And I do that at all levels. It doesn't matter. I have D2 kids. I have NAIA kids. I have NAIA coaches in my program, so I learn from them. And I'll say one of the other really, really important factors that I've learned for myself, because if you're not trying to better yourself, if I'm not trying to better myself and I just think I've made it, then who am I, right? So I'm only as strong as the people around me. And this year specifically, I let go of the reins a little bit. So I took a couple coaches under my belt and just been teaching them how to communicate with coaches, teaching them who to reach out to, giving them contacts. And they have done such a spectacular job. Specifically, one of my coaches that coaches my third 17U team, he has 6 offers now for his team. And
From him reaching out. And all I had to do was give him the number. All I had to do was say, hey, and then he would come back and say, they said this, what do I say back? And so I would give him exact verbiage. And I feel like if you can do that, the job is to lift as you climb, not just for your players, but for you as a director. So, number 1 is initiate, number 2 is develop your coaching staff. And if you can get them to handle some of that recruitment, it takes a little bit off of a director's plate. And as a 17U coach, I manage my top team as well. And then, of course, my own daughter's recruitment. So it's a lot on my plate, and I knew that if I didn't release it, it was going to hurt the girls. So I had to put my pride aside, my ego aside, and say, you can handle it. And to have faith in my coaching staff. I mean, just like you were saying, why else do you have them there if you don't trust them to take care of your kids? So, yeah, so initiates number one and probably end all, say all is you got to do the work.
Now, coaches listening to this, if you are not reaching out to college coaches about your kids, I don't know what you're doing. These coaches are not just going to call you unless you are top 20 kid. Unless they absolutely know, then they're going to call you. But coaches are not just calling about kids. Reach out to these college coaches. Parents, make sure that your coaches are reaching out to college coaches.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so excited. I love this because
Thank you.
that's what kicked off the recruitment for my daughter and the group she was with in the 8th grade. Without saying any names, we lost a lot of talent. We had to reload. So she was playing with a lot of girls she wasn't familiar playing with, just now getting to know. And but Coach Dre sent emails. He made phone calls. He understood the situation. The team we had, we no longer had that same team, so we had a lot of girls that no one knew about. And he got on the horn, sent emails, made phone calls. And that first tournament, I want to say it was in Dallas. It might have been Clash of Clubs. We were blown away. Every coach that emailed him back and said they would be there after he sent the schedule, headshots, a link of a workout of all the girls. They showed up, and I believe that first game we played this young lady and her teams with, and it was a great game. And my wife came up to me before the game, and she was looking around like, "What's going on?" Because we had never had that many coaches at our game. But if I'm being honest, a lot of it probably had to do with her daughter. But the ones that did email back and said they would be there, they were there, and they were there the rest of the summer, the rest of that weekend. So it does work, not just showing up and saying, "Hey, we're going to play the tournament," but coaches, please email, please call coaches for your players. Please do that.
That's good. I like that. Josh, coming to you, Ryan was with Team Lex for, was it a year or a few years? About 2 years? 2 years. And then made the move to Trae Young. As Amber said earlier, Ryan already had offers, right? And obviously that's why a lot of these kids play. They want to play in college. They want to get offers. What made you make that switch? And was that switch difficult for Ryan?
Yes, we have merch available. Be sure to check out the site at itsjustdifferentpod.com to see if it's something you may like. All right, back to the episode.
It was very difficult for Ryan because Ryan had grew with her crew, and she was playing high school summer ball, so it got easy. That's what she was used to being around. I have always been a calculated thinker since the 3rd grade. I've been fortunate to play with Haskell daughter as well. I mean, Coach Haskell daughter, and Ryan played with Haskell daughter as well. She was a part of that successes, that team growing up. So some of the stuff he just spoke on with Coach Dre and Amber said, that is the key success and balance for coaches to take the extra initiative. And any coach not doing that is a red flag. So that's something I was talking about when individuality was best for the kid. But going back to Ryan, it was definitely uncomfortable. I notice, I watch, I pay attention, I study body language, I watch practice, I watch how she will respond to certain coaching style and everything. And I was like saying, okay, Joshua, me and my wife, we talk. We always been around the game, raised Ryan in the game, had very high expectations for her talent. When she showed her talent was at that level, so we consider ourselves to, let's take this thing more precious. Let's make sure she's in the right situations. So as she was growing, I started seeing complacencies. I started seeing things to where she was just kind of like I'm just here. I'm just here with my crew, and we doing that. And that was too complacent for me. So I called Amber, and I called her a few summers back. I said, I'm going to speak freely. I said, I don't know about coming out there for Oklahoma Swift. I said, we got a bunch of teams around here. We have EYBL teams. We have Team Lex. We got Under Armour teams. Why would we go to Oklahoma? She passively aggressively spoke up to me and told me when I was speaking to her at a game, we was at I think last season or a few seasons ago, I lost track. She said, I have 2 more spots left on my top team. And I said, okay, I like that, shooting your shot. And I said, I'll make sure I took that as a note. And I said, this is what I was looking for. Because I was already locked in and thought I had a direction. But I always was a big fan of what she did was what I considered less. But she was a great coach. I think she checked off a bunch of boxes. The red flags, I didn't see many. She's a great spokesman for your kid. She's going to meet your kid at the level of what she thinks your kid is or the level your kid can potentially grow in. And she will check the coaches, call the coaches, and they're going to hear her. And she's going to sell your kid like they should be sold. The same way the coaches want to sell themselves to you, she meets them at the door. And all you can do is respect, real recognize real. So I'll say this and nip it, but Ryan definitely was uncomfortable with it. But being that Ryan is under development right now, even though she's a great talent, she does not get to make that choice fully because she will remain comfortable when you got parents that still want you to grow into your potential.
Now, Amber, McKenzie she committed last April, Nebraska. Okay, to Nebraska. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like a lot of people was surprised or shocked that she reopened her commitment. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so first and foremost, Nebraska, amazing school, even amazing coaching staff, and we just truly appreciate them believing in McKenzie and all the other schools early on, as one may say. And, just to simplify the whole situation, I believe that originally McKenzie wanted to be a big fish in I'm not going to say a smaller pond, but in that size pond at the time. And look, like we mentioned earlier, people grow, players grow. And I think a big turning point for her was getting to play with just amazing talent like Ryan and Keziah, and then Maddie Stewart also. And she's like, well, hold on now. These are the best of the best, In addition to that, she's playing now against the best of the best. And I think maybe it was a light switch moment. And she wants to go out there and compete, as one may say. So, so she just came down, she weighed her options and figured it was just a good idea to kind of reopen. And I think just as parents and even, I know these coaches can understand and relate to this, is at the end of the day, we just want our kids to have options.
Yeah.
That's it. We want them to have options. And so if the opportunity presents itself to weigh more options, get options, the question is why wouldn't you go and look at that?
Yeah.
That's
good.
So, we prayed about it and met as a family, and obviously Amber and Coach had some great conversations, but ultimately it was Mackenzie's decision.
Yeah.
And Mackenzie's decision only, And, so we did that and then reopened and, God continues to provide. And there was a multitude of options pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's just a testimony to, her hard work and constant commitment to the game.
Yeah.
So, God knows what's next. I can't tell you what the answer is next. And we'll go from there.
I was going to say, so where is she going?
Well, I will say, I'll add that one of the blessings that is just in disguise about that early commitment is that everybody wants offers early until you get offers early. Like, everyone's like, oh, my kid's
That's
that
a
good,
bar.
and I want to offer, and I want this and that. But, dude, to manage that, my daughter's very first offer was OU, and she was 12 years old. So people were like, when she chose to commit, it's like an engagement, right? So it was a verbal commitment. When she chose to commit at that time, she was 16, just starting to drive, and they were about to start calling her all these schools come June. She had been on the phone with these schools for almost 4 years. So she, to me, she was already almost an entire college career has been done. And so she was just in a different space at 16. She's in a different space at 12. She's in a different space at 13. Your daughters grow so much. Their year is like a decade to an adult, right? So, seeing her growth from 16 to 17, she's a different kid. She's a different person. Her game's developed. There's so much that she challenged herself on when the phone was turned off. So, the biggest blessing we had, it's like a double-edged sword a little bit, I guess you can say, is her early verbal commitment allowed her growth. So through those 13 months of her commitment, we seen a player that got all the pressure off of her, all the phone calls, everything. Her phone could be shut off if she was working out. She didn't have to worry about returning a call. She didn't have to worry about a visit. She didn't have to worry about any of that. She was in her head committed to where she was going to play at the next level. So it was head down, work hard mentality, league work mentality, because you have one focus, right?
Right.
And so I would say, it blessings to Nebraska. We love that staff. I have kids. I have to wear a lot of hats. I have kids that are being recruited by Nebraska right now. So we love that staff, but it was an engagement, and it's time for Kenzie to reopen that and, see, like Chris was saying, see what else is out there for her, because she's worked really hard for that. So we're excited for her, and it did come on pretty fast.
Yeah.
We're not going to lie. So it definitely came on really fast, and we were not prepared. So we'll make that very clear is when she reopened her recruitment, we had no school in mind. So like that door was shut until the next day, and that's when the floodgates came in. So we definitely had that door shut that entire time. So it honestly is pretty cool to see, her work pay off, and everyone kind of see that publicly, but we know what she's been doing privately, with her game. So
Yeah, that's good. And Haskell, y'all won state last year, all right? Won state last year, and decided to make the move to Legion. You know I was gonna ask.
I got the hard question. You get the hard question.
You decided to go to Legion. What made you make the move from Liberty to Legion?
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was really tough. What a lot of people don't know is when Jacy was coming out of 8th grade, she was actually interested in something a little different. But I have two boys that went on to play college, stayed in public school, and so I told her, I said, look, I'm not saying no, but this is what we're gonna do for now. We'll see how the first year goes, the second year. And if I feel like this is something you really want, and I feel like it's something that will facilitate more growth, a lot more growth than staying at Liberty, which in my head at the time, I'm thinking, that's going to be tough. Because I knew she was going to go play for one of the best coaches in the country already, in Ross Reading. I've watched him for years, watched him coach and take teams that, honestly, I didn't think they would get that far, and they went far every year. I think the last year they won state before my daughter arrived. They played against a team I think that had 6 or 7 Division I commits, and I think they only had one at the time, maybe 2. And Jacy, who's at Rice now, and she was a freshman, and they won state against that team. It was unbelievable. So I knew she was going into a situation that was already phenomenal for growth. But her freshman year, she had some struggles, but it was growth there. I saw her grow. I saw them go further than I expected, and I saw that she was a part of that.
Yeah.
And it was impressive. And I said, okay. And her 10th grade year, I watched it. Beginning of that season, I did tell Coach Reedy there was a chance that we may do something different. My wife, I don't think she knew I had that conversation with her. But if I was in that position where he was at, I would want to know. So I was honest with him to let him know there's a slight chance, and I was honest. It was only a slight chance, but as I watched her that year step into a different role of a more leadership, vocal role, and I watched that team, everybody around her grow. It was just when I saw that she had that ability to have girls that were afraid to shoot the ball. She would say stuff like, I'll go get the rebound if you promise me you'll shoot it if I kick it to you. It was stuff like that, and then some of the things that Reedy would share with me had me really thinking, wow, she's different.
Yeah.
She's growing. She wants everybody around her to be lifted up. And I didn't know at that time how far they would go, and they went further than I imagined.
Than a lot of people imagine.
Oh, man. I mean, and then all that, if you can see it on video, I think when they won state, I'm just looking up like, what in the world is going on? My wife comes up to me and she's like, she's going to revisit what she talked to you about her 8th grade year. And of course, we had to sit down, and I said, as promised, I told you I would consider it if I felt like it was, this was something very important to you. She stopped me her 8th grade year from asking her a question I'd been asking her for years. Mom and I both played, so I'm always asking her, you sure this is what you still want to do? A lot of people don't know she's actually way better. She was better at tennis. But basketball is what she decided on. 8th grade year, she told me, don't ask me anymore, this is what I want. And so I sat back and watched her those first 2 years of high school and her just on the court, off the court, just maturing got me to the point to where I was like, okay, I've got to consider this. Thought about Sierra Canyon, have family out there. Of course, we thought about Mount Verdi and some other schools. And but I watched Legion. Legion kind of came out the blue, and I didn't know much about them. I started watching Legion. I liked what I saw, to be honest with you. I started doing some due diligence. My mother was an educator. My daughter excels there too, and I knew academics would have to be on point, so we had to do our research there. And my wife was the last one to get on board. That was tough. I knew it would be, and I was cool with whatever she wanted to do there. But ultimately, it was a family decision. And probably the toughest part was going to speak with Reedy, but I think he understood. And that was tough because honestly, a part of me wanted her to kind of stay back and let's see if we can three-peat, you know. But when we looked at the schedule, man, and we saw how much of her, how much time we were going to give back to her, and we saw that it was more of a college-style schedule, I decided, you know, this could be beneficial, you know. And I told us if we're going to do this, you have to promise me you're going to take the leadership and spearhead this schedule. I'll help you tweak it if we need to. And that's what she's been doing. Everything she's been doing this summer has not been me or mom. She's calling up the trainer saying, can I get in this day? Calling up the strength and conditioning guys, can I get in with you here? She's leading all that. And so right now I feel like we made the right choice.
Yeah, that's good. Now, Josh, you know I got to come to you next. Coming from DeSouze. So DeSouze has a history of talent. Never been able to beat Duncanville. I'm just saying, Pantherette over here. But anyways, what made you? Ryan also is going to Legion. What made you make the decision to leave DeSouze to go to Legion?
Let me correct you. We got y'all one time at home. It was one time, and y'all beat us when it mattered. But shout out to y'all. Honestly, it was about Ryan. I've been fortunate and blessed to coach, train, be around a lot of talented kids. Like I spoke early, Ryan and Jacy, Jay and Chloe Lewis, Kamora Pruitt, Amari Bowers, they all have played together. Amari Garcia, they played in around or played together. And I always made a decision where it was like team-based. And I started thinking to myself, and this came up to me last year at DeSouze, whenever I made a decision that was best for Ryan, it's always been like she's a point guard. She got to be able to make a pass to this score. They play this way. She got to know how to play with this type of player. So therefore, it's her leveling up her game has always been based off a team. So I started asking myself, when have I made a decision that was based on Ryan's? And Ryan's what Ryan need. DeSouze was a really great situation. Got a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of critique, a lot of growing pains, a lot of good pains from it. We had a lot of success and we had a lot of negativity that carried through them 2 seasons at DeSouze, if I'm just speaking realistically. But definitely when your kid get put in those situations, you want to see her grow from those, because it's a part of the journey. When you're driving that vehicle, you got the right to also make sure the wheel stays straight, let her drive it, but at the same time making sure the vehicle get to the destination. And DeSouze was a part of that, and now it's time to move on to something. Shout out to the coaches, wish them nothing but the best and a successful season at Faith Family. But moving to Legion, shout out to Taylor. I always was a big fan of his game. I thought he was a great coach. I watched him from afar. And I thought him and Ryan can grow their games together on top of the things he can put in her game as a point guard and an individual growth for her. So that was all a part of the details and what I put into it. Like I said, I always thought of things. I always thought like I had a thought process where I wanted to go. And if any time I felt like stagnant, complacency, or any point where I seen that Ryan wasn't growing her game, while she's being developed, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna change it up, and that's just what I've always been about, and that's what I'm gonna do.
That's good. Now, we've talked about we're getting to training. We talked about training a little bit, talking about the kids, the things that they're doing at Haskell. You mentioned Jacy. She's the one that's reaching out to a trainer, reaching out to strength and conditioning. I want to talk about a training regimen. I think that a lot of parents think their kids in the gym, and they really not in the gym. A lot of parents say they want to play D1 basketball, but they really don't know what it takes to play D1 basketball. So what does Rieyan, McKenzie, and Jacy's training regimen look like?
Honestly, Ryan's training been pretty consistent throughout the years. I had the luxury of training her very young. When she showed me what her talent level was and what she was willing to do with meeting her talent, that's when I knew that I had something special. I remember, I don't remember what year that was, Haskell, when I was the only coach on the staff and I felt like we were the best team in the country. It was real young, like third grade or something. And they were trying to remain humble. I said, man, we the best. Like, we put us up against anybody right now. But I also believe in, let me back up. I put Ryan around kids, too, at a young age, like JC, somebody that can match her and match her talent and push her as well, too. So once I thought we had that formula, I felt like she can take on any situation. So we started traveling around the country, playing these national kids that still rank nationally today. And I started thinking, okay, she's just not a good driveway kid. Like, she's really good with this. Like I said, her talent matched her work ethic, my push, my drive, because I'm a worker. And if you want something, you got to really go after it. And so once she showed me she can do that, I said, okay, I have something special. Now, on time, when you realize you have something special, it's maintenance. So when I go back to the training regimen routine, we just kept it consistent. Day to day, your focus, what you do week to week, it looks different for each individual kid. I can't tell you what you should do with your kid, but I am big on individuality. I have a boxing background. I train boxing as well. When you train in boxing, you don't make a boxer do something different from what.
Did you know that I have 2 books? One called The Little Girl with Big Dreams. It's about an ambitious little girl who overcomes every no to say yes to a dream. The other is called Changing Lanes. It teaches you about the things that you learn from sport and how it translates to life after sport. Be sure to check these out at itsjustdifferentpod.com. Let's get to the episode.
What he's or she's comfortable with doing. You adapt to the fighter. You allow the fighter to grow with their rhythm, their balance, and their understanding, and then you adapt as a coach. So what I'm saying is, you do what's best for your kid. If they need to get stronger, quicker, faster, you put them around situations where they can train and work on their literacy. If it's shooting, ball handling, if they're a small guard, big guard, train them into what's going to work for their strength and their weakness as well too. So a training regimen should be something consistent. It don't have to be fancy. It don't have to be something that you see somebody else doing. Do what's best for your kid and what's remote for her talent and what's going to continue leveling her up as her game.
I'm going to keep mine very short, and then Chris is going to answer it. I would say when my daughter got her very first offer from Sherry Cole, we were sitting on her bed, and we were in her room upstairs, and just said crisscross applesauce. Really wasn't expecting the offer to come. And Sherry Cole said, how'd you play this weekend? And kids like, oh, we beat everybody. You know, I played really good, blah. And so she goes, I'm going to give you one bit of advice. And she goes, if you're the best player in the gym, go find another gym. And we have lived by that advice. And so I would say everything that he said, it comes down to making sure that you're in a gym with kids that can improve you, that are going to challenge you, trainers that will challenge you. And if you have outgrown that challenge, you have outgrown that atmosphere, then go find you another gym. And then Chris is going to actually say what her actual regimen is every single week. So
Let me say something first. Practice, right? We ain't talking about the game. We're talking about practice, right? So I want to make sure we all understand. We're not talking about the game.
right.
No, so You know, bottom line is we've always been a big believer in our family that activity drives results. And you can't fake showing up, period. You know, so a kid may say they're putting in all these reps and they've done all this work, but it's going to show on the weekend. And to simplify that, McKenzie specifically knows she has to do ABC throughout the week to perform on the weekend. If she doesn't do those activities, she's not going to have the confidence and the enthusiasm to perform on the weekend. So when it comes down to what does practice look like, for McKenzie, what doesn't it look like? The girl's in the gym 24/7. Haskell said it best, and I completely agree with this. At some point, your student athlete has to take the baton from the parents and has to start driving those results, period. Now, like my wife said, our younger kids, we've got to drive them around. We've got to get them from A to B. They don't drive. They don't have friends who drive. That's different. But at some point, that baton has to be passed. Otherwise, that kid isn't going to be able to make it to that top 1%. Okay? So for McKenzie, it is an absolute relentless amount of work ethic, including, I believe, every kid's parents who's on this panel right now. And it's just different right there. So I'll give you an example of growth in her game. So last year on a summer league team, she played with a kid called Jill Tweehouse. In my opinion, she's the best shooter, apart from me and Steph Curry, I've ever seen in my life. Okay? The kid is a natural knockdown shooter, right? McKenzie wasn't. She just wasn't. There was some great strengths to her game, but McKenzie was never a knockdown shooter. So McKenzie knew she had to get in the gym and put up over 1,000 shots every single day, minimum, for her to perform on the weekend. She drove that narrative. That's what she did on there. So to answer your question and go over what does her regime look like, well, during school season, she'll wake up at 5:30, be in the gym by 6. She'll get her workout in, okay? Then she'll go to school. Then after school, she'll have team practice. I'm not saying it doesn't count, but as far as her development goes, she still knows. A lot of kids will say, well, I had practice today, I'm good. No. After that, she'll hit the weights. Then after that, she'll go and do a PT, and I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. And then after that, she will then go with her trainer and actually get an hour-and-a-half session in with her personal trainer. The one thing I didn't mention also, she'll get on the gun at some point. At 2 seasons ago, it started, they've only got 2 guns, where they've got 4 or 5 kids that want to shoot on the gun. It's funny what happens when cream always rises to the top. If someone's doing it and getting results, everybody. So after practice, the 4 girls would sprint to the gym and see who could steal one of the gun, right? So that to me is just insane, because I played at a high level. I played professional in England also, but I was only practicing a couple of times a week. And I was like, hold on a minute. Maybe if I go back in time, if I put the type of work she put in, maybe I could have been good at this sport, So I just feel like just the relentless work ethic is really what it takes. Every kid is different on that part, but it has to get to a point where the kid wants it more than the parent. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yes.
Once that baton is passed, that's when you're going to see major growth in the kid's game. And then the last thing I want to touch on, everything we've talked about so far is being in the gym, putting up shots, weight room, whatever it is. There's another aspect to this game that excels brilliance, and that's taking care of your body.
Yep.
Right? Stretching, rehab, PT, giving yourself the right amount of time before you return. Are you putting in the activity to get yourself back to 150% before the injury? Because injuries are going to happen. They're going to happen. It's just part of the game, okay? It builds up the mental strength in your mind also, okay? We've got to accept that. However, how we respond and how we bounce back from those injuries are going to dictate how great we're going to be as far as that part. So I encourage all the kids out there listening to this, the coaches, to encourage this, is take care of your body. Because if you have a proactive approach on there, then it's going to just last a lot more longer and you're going to be able to go a lot more further. Yeah. And if the inevitable does happen, which bad things happen to good people every single day, you've got the right mindset and the right game plan. How do I get back on track as quick as possible on there? So take care of your body.
I love it.
I'll be quick, because everything they said, I'm on board. Coach, I'm going to put a plug in if you don't mind. Coach Robin Gray, thank you. Not long ago, Clash of Clubs, she played 3 games. The 3rd game, she strained her calf. It's been a while since she had an injury like that. The reason that was a big deal was because 4 days after she was going to participate and try out for USA team. I took her to the doctor that Monday. She didn't want to go. Took her to the doctor. He said, you need to be out for 2 to 3 weeks to let it heal. That was a tough place for me as a dad because I know my daughter. She looked at me like, okay. The doctor looks at her after she tells the doctor about the USA deal. He said, if you're going to do this, tape it up, advocate for yourself. If it tightens up, you need to get off the court. So against what I wanted to do, I allowed her to try out. Of course, she made the team, so I'm happy for her. But as a dad, that really, she had already begun, but that really had me thinking, okay, we got to get serious about making sure we're taking care of that body, watching load time, and whatnot. I didn't have to say anything. After the USA trials, I was so proud of her because before I had a chance to sit her down and talk to her about making sure that was locked in for a regimen, she had already made the phone calls. And when I say it's little things like this that makes me so proud and happy for her, just seeing that grow. And so she had already been seeing Devin at Redline in Frisco. She goes out there 2-3 times a work, 2-3 times skills and shooting. She sees Coach Swag for strength and conditioning, core work, speed and agility. He does a lot of great things as far as building up the ligaments and stuff to kind of help protect the knees. She's Robin, got her ready to play. It's a grind. I'm not gonna lie. It's a grind, and I think I'm proud of her. It's just she's in it. It's not us. It used to be the ones that was pushing it, but when you watch your kid take over and say, "I appreciate everything y'all have done," it's me now. It's a beautiful thing, and she's got 2 years left. I'm just ecstatic, excited to see what this do for her. But as far as the regiment, she's got things lined up throughout the week. It's crazy, and it's.
So let me ask y'all. First of all, they getting in some work. These kids is getting in work. Do y'all think that it's a such thing as overtraining? One, is there a such thing as overtraining, and how do you manage the load of, I've heard strength and conditioning, I've heard PT, I've heard regular trainer, practices, team practices, you got schoolwork, and you got being a kid. Like, how do you manage all of that?
For me, I just check in with Ryan to make sure her mental stability is intact. For his workload and management, I think that's a skill set somebody can learn to have and continue to work towards. I used to say this thing, saying to her is, if you got your fist balled up and you passionate about something, nobody should be able to pry your fist open unless they break your wrist to open your fingers. And she told me a long time ago this was her passion, just something she really wanted to do. Like I spoke earlier, her work ethic, her focus, her continuous grind, it matched that. And so I knew she wanted to go. She just needed to be steered in a way to help her get to her destination. So definitely, I would say the burnout comes when the passion is no longer there for the push or meet what's necessary to stay successful. Long as your kid has the mental stability to stay focused, stay in tune, but also step away, have other like stuff, engagements, like if it's her friends, if it's activities, if it's speaking to a counselor or whatever your kid individually need for the individual, it's our job to make sure we stay on top of that. So it's mental stability to me.
I love what you said about the importance of the mental part on there. It's very, very important right there. And I just think we've been very blessed with very good balance. I played basketball growing up and whatnot. I had my time to shine, so I'm at the back of the bus being dad, and we've got a 5-star coach right here handling business. So we've got a good little balance there, in our family. Short answer is this, Brahms ice cream. Now she knows she's not allowed to eat that, so she'll sneak away with her friends and do that. But sometimes it's those small things.
Yeah.
everything can't be perfect. They got to be kids at the end of the day also. And, as far as Ryan getting to hang out with their friends, and do some fun stuff, a little family vacation here and there, it's always good to have balance, And again, going back to passing the baton, these kids want to be the best and performing at high levels. If they're driving that narrative, I think it's going to decrease that chance for burnout.
Yeah.
If the parents are always pushing the kid all the time, just like Haskell said, hey, was revisiting, you sure this is what you want to do, checking in and everything like that. As long as you've got that balance, that I feel like that's going to always be there. So.
I'll be quick. I'll share this with after tournaments. What I try to do is I give my daughter 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours, before I sit her down and we talk about anything from a critiquing standpoint. Sundays, if we don't have a tournament, she's not doing anything. We have another rest day during the middle of the week. And depending on what's been going on, how rich schedule has been, sometimes she'll have 3 days off during the week. So I'm glad you asked that question because having that opportunity to rest, not only physically but mentally, I think is also crucial. Has been crucial for my kid as well.
I'm going to go to you real quick, Amber. I think you talked about this earlier, actually, but you had Oklahoma Swift, which was an independent program, and you had a ton of kids that had offers. Everybody knew about Oklahoma Swift, and honestly, you could have kept running Oklahoma Swift. But I want you to talk to a lot of other independent programs right now. There are a lot of other independent programs who can do the same thing. What was the ultimate decision to say, all right, I'm going to lose the ego maybe, and I built Oklahoma Swift, but I'm going to go under Trae Young. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll say that as we grow as individuals, as our players grow, I try to use that as an analogy with athletes and us in the business world, is that sometimes you just hit a brick wall. At some point you need other people to help push you to that next level. And I felt like I grew Swift and I grew my circle, because Haskell kind of talked about it. I grew my circle, my people, I think as big as I personally could do. So I grew as much as I could. I mean, we were on a national level. I felt like I was touching as many people as I could, but it was like I couldn't break through a barrier. It was like every time I felt like I was hitting walls. Where I wanted to get that next level kid, I wanted to coach that next level kid, I wanted to grow me personally, I wanted to grow my circle, I wanted to grow to that next level, and I feel like having a platform of some kind allowed me to build that circle. And if I build my circle, it only benefits my players. And so that's what I say when I put my ego to the side, because a lot of people see me on social media, they see how active I am. Some people can have their perception of it's about me or whatever they want to say. But at the end of the day, the bigger I grow and the bigger my circle grows, the more opportunity my players have. And so that was my ultimate goal, was how do I put more people in my corner so that I can use those resources to take a kid like Ryan, a kid like Soleil, a kid like Maya Thompson who walked in my door without an offer to her name. How do I use a platform and a brand and the circle now? So now I have built more people in my corner and take players like that to a whole nother level. How do I get on overtime?
Yeah.
Right? How do I get my kids to an All-American camp? How do I get McDonald's All-Americans? How do I do that? You can sit and say all day long that my independent's the best in the nation. There is only a handful of independents that are the best in the nation.
Right.
And so to get to that next level, I needed those doors open. That doesn't necessarily mean that I got to stay the course. I don't have to stay where I'm at. There could be another door open and I will walk through that, right? But the goal for me last year was I felt like Swift just kind of hit just that brick wall. I hit that brick wall, and I needed people to kind of come in with me to push my players to another level. Because I did have kids with offers. I did have, but I do feel like even for my own daughter's sake, when we sat down, I said, you can continue, and Haskell talked about it, you can continue to carry by yourself, or you can take a group of players and give up a little bit of that responsibility so that you can focus in on what you're good at, hone in on what you're good at on the court, and relieve some of that stress off of you a little bit. You know, allow your teammate to carry some of it. Allow your point guard to carry some of it. Allow your big to carry some of it. And I feel like that's what I needed.
Yeah.
So I personally needed that because I had a lot of weight on me, and I wanted to take Oklahoma to another level. And I feel like even right now, you know, I would consider me one of one in the state of Oklahoma. Now my next level is how do I become, you know, the next big thing? How do I take our reach, you know, to New York and California? How do I take my reach for my players to another level? Yeah. And that falls on me. And so, and that's where I feel like, you know, when that door opened for me, I was like, man, I can be introduced to this guy, this guy, this guy.
Yeah.
You know, this woman. I can be one of 2 or 3 directors in 3SSB that's a female. And then on top of that, I can take Trae Young's name as a brand out of the state of Oklahoma and provide different.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of what your podcast is about, is how do you you're not going against the grind. I didn't reinvent the wheel by no means, right? I jumped on a train that I felt like was the best benefit for my girls, and then used the platform that Swift built to get me there. And that's what my best advice for independence would be. Once you get there, you know, that's when you look at your crossroads and decide, you know, do I go this direction or do I stay the course? And for me, it was time for me to kind of take that shift and build something a little bit different for my girls.
That's really good. You mentioned Maya Thompson. Does she have any, is she a top 100 kid?
No.
Does she have any offers?
Yes.
So I want to talk about that real quick, and then I know we got to wrap up here. You got Maya Thompson. I obviously know who she is. Not a top 100 kid, which means at the end of the day, coaches are not just going to call and say, hey, tell me about Maya Thompson. Like, at the end of the day, what did you do as a director? Of course, her talent spoke for itself, but you got to get coaches there. What did you do to help assist in those offers?
Man, I feel like with Maya, the first thing you have to do as a coach is believe. Like, you have to believe in the player you have, right? I can't sell something I don't believe in, and I won't.
Yeah.
And I explained that to Maya's parents, you know, like, I have a reputation to maintain. Not only that, but when these girls go play at that next level and they're playing for that college coach, I want them to re-recruit my program. So I can't be one and done.
Yeah.
I can't get a kid somewhere and be one and done. So if I'm selling something, I have to believe in it, and I have to do everything I can do to get Maya to where she needs to be and what she need to do on the court to be attractive, right?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And so I talked to Maya about being attractive, you know, on the court, looking the part first. So how did I get Maya looking the part? You know, I got Maya moving in transition. I got Maya, be a dog, right? I got her teammates to believe in Maya. And so, because I believe in Maya. So that's your very first step as a coach is you gotta, if you're gonna sell something, it better be genuine. And so when I talked to college coaches, I needed college coaches to know who she was.
Wait, say that again. When you did what?
When I spoke to college coaches, I needed them to know who Maya was. And so, which means I had to initiate the conversation. So when I reached out to Michigan State, right, that's her biggest offer to date right now. It's an amazing offer. I had to believe she was good enough for Michigan State because I'm not going to oversell a player either. And so I also needed to know their systems. I need to know their coaching staff. I need to know, you know, what type of personalities do they like to recruit. And I knew a Michigan State likes a dog. And so they were recruiting a dog. Now, is Michigan State recruiting As? No. Is Michigan State recruiting Soleil? No. Because, you know, they're more of a shooting style, a smooth player. Maya's a dog. Like, Maya's a dog. She's gritty. And so Michigan State likes gritty. But I needed Michigan State to not look at Rieyan every time. I needed Michigan State not to look at McKenzie every time. I needed Michigan State to not just see the eye candy. I needed them to see who Maya was. So I had to give them her scout. I also had to give them what Maya wasn't good at.
Yes.
I had to be honest with her growth. And, you know, when I did that with these coaches, they trust my scout. Yeah. And when they trust my scout, they offer my players. And I feel like that's where I was with Maya, is that I gave them a scout that was honest and transparent and where I'm going to take her. And they had to believe in where I was going to takers. So Maya Thompson walked in with nothing. Maya Thompson, if she stays in my program for next year or not, she's walking out with something, and that was my job as a director and as a coach. So.
And that is a whole podcast episode. Like you literally said a mouthful of one. Like I really hope y'all got that. One, as a director and as a parent, as a player, as anyone else, understanding the school style, understanding what that school wants. You can't just say, oh, I want to go play at Baylor, or oh, I want to play at UTSA, or oh, I want to play at this school. You have no idea the type of style they play. So that was number one, like understanding the style. Number two, reaching out to coaches. I talk about this all the time. College coaches are not just randomly calling people unless you are a top 100 kid. They're just not. You talked about that. You reached out to these schools. You're advocating for these players, and you have to advocate for players. Everything you just said, that really just kind of gave me chills because that's what we talk
I'll
about.
add this too, is as directors, we do reach out, and as coaches, they do reach out. So when parents or people from the outside world are complaining or they're jealous or there's animosity or whatever, please, for the love of God, know that a lot of these directors put a lot of work in, and if you ain't patting them on the back, that's on you. Like,
Right.
that's on you, and you're hurting the game. For women's basketball game to grow, parents have to support that type of work ethic.
Yeah.
And if you have a director or a coach, I challenge everyone to go out and just say thank you, because they're doing work for kids that they're not getting paid for.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to, for one. So you're not getting paid for that. So the work I do every day is free of charge for you.
Right.
And so that's why, for me, we talk about our players all the time and how we want them to bank on their work ethic. That's what I do. So when I walk in with confidence, or I walk in and I take a program to another level, I'm banking on my work ethic. So I bank on my confidence regardless of what the outside world is, saying.
I love it. As we end here, a question for all of you. What advice would you give to parents helping their kid get recruited? And I really want to talk to, because I look at you guys as high-level athletes. I want you guys to give that advice to those kids that may not be a top 100, but they're still a Division I basketball player. They're still a Division II basketball player. They can still go play college basketball. What advice would you give to parents?
You speaking from like AAU teams or college? Okay, I do want to speak on both. I would say always stay unique to the individual kid. Every situation that's glamour doesn't mean you should chase it. You should put your kid in the best situation for the individual growth of your kid. That's your focus. As offers, as recruiting goes along, stay intact and stay in tune with your kid. Make sure she's growing, he or she's growing mentally in the direction she needs to stay stable, to sustain her success, his success as well. And as you recruiting a program, as you recruiting a college, make sure it's the best fit for your kid. Like I said, I was telling somebody a long time ago, not just a little bit ago, your kid recruitment doesn't establish or determines her success. Some kids that's been recruited at the top level, they're going to have a hard awakening when they get there, and they're going to realize, hey, I always been P5. P5 looks a different level of competitiveness that won't change. They're going to continue recruiting at a certain level, and you're going to have to be it or be not. So as you come along with your kid, as she's growing, as he or she's growing, coming along in their process, just make sure you stay intact on what's best for them. For us, the programs, identifying, separating red flags. Amber does a great job of speaking best for the individual kid as well, because like she said, she got to learn a kid first and have the confidence to sell a kid as well, because everything is a sell. Coaches want to buy, and you have to have a product to sell. That's just the nature of the beast. But making sure the program is the best fit for your kid to eventually, to individually grow as he or she takes a step towards the collegiate level.
I'll say, I'll try to keep it short, is What's for you is for you. So when I talk to players that are in my program, I actually have a player right now that's been in my program since the seventh grade, and she has no offers right now. She's a 2025, and I can tell you, I say she has no offers. She actually just got an offer yesterday. So she had zero offers all the way through, and so she stayed the course. And I feel like it's what's for you is for you with a sense of urgency. So when it comes to your recruitment, as long as you are putting in that work and you have that sense of urgency about yourself, your game, your recruitment, your mentorship, right? The coaches that you have around you, you're putting yourself around players that want to play at that next level as well. The mindset's got to be what's for me is for me, and what God has planned for you is going to play out. And you trust that work ethic that you're putting in. And like Josh said, if you get an offer, you don't get an offer. It does not dictate you as a person, as an individual, or how much value you bring to a team, or how much value you're going to bring to society. Because our job as coaches is also to develop young women. And so I feel like for me, it's when I speak to players that have zero offers, my first job is to empower them as a female. That's my first job. Once that empowerment is there and they feel like they have the backing of someone like me, I feel like that allows that whole saying, what's for me is for me, because I'm in the best, my coach is putting me in the best possible position to get what's for me. And they have a sense of urgency. I have a sense of urgency. So I think if players will maintain that, then it will play out. I mean, there's NAIA players that are 24s just now getting offers. There's girls in my program that I have every connection under the sun, and they're just now getting offers. And so I feel like if you put yourself on the right platform to be seen and you have the exposure, then it will play out. Like, it will play out for you, so just be patient with it.
That's good.
Yeah, I would go back to what I mentioned earlier. Activity drives results. So if you want to make it to that next level, then put a game plan in place and then take action and execute on that game plan. If you don't know what you need to do to get to the next level, then consult with your local coach or your trainer or whatever it is. Call Amber. And then take action on that, because activity drives results. So that's the first part. The second part, which I think is actually more important, is it's important for players to understand that this is just temporary, okay? And playing this game, at one day we're going to have to put the basketball up, right? And for some players, unfortunately, that may come a little bit prematurely if there's an injury or something like that. So what are you putting in place to have a plan to fall back on? And for me, it was my education, right? So if schools are going to potentially give you an opportunity to get a free education, are you going to maximize on that? So when that ball does go up, now you've got something to fall back on and build a legacy for your family, right? As the saying goes, your network is your net worth, right? So use this opportunity to connect, build relationships. I'm reading a book right now that says everybody communicates, very few actually connect. Be intentional, build those relationships, because you will be able to leverage on them later on in life. Not to give a sob story, but I came to this country from England with 2 suitcases and no money. And because of basketball, I only played at an NAI school, but because of basketball gave me an education to get a degree in business. I started hustling in the workplace. I didn't want to go back overseas and play pro. And now we don't hurt financially. But that was because of basketball and putting a plan in place, and me having my older brother to say, hey, quit pissing around and get an education. So I'm telling the kids right now, put a plan in place, use basketball as a tool to get you to another level, and your network is your net worth. Be, like my man said right here, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, so always be evaluating who you're hanging out with and who's pouring into you.
I love it.
I'm going to be quick. I love the last part. Because I tell my daughter that all the time. Your network is so important. With this basketball, it's a beautiful game, and we love it. She loves it, and she loves utilizing wherever God has placed her and trying to help everyone around her. But it's about people for us. It's about the network. I tell her all the time, the ball will stop bouncing. It's unfortunate, but it will stop bouncing. And so who you are after it's done is the most important thing to me as a father. I want her to learn as much as she can. I want her to grow on the court, yes. And I'll finish with this. I watched my baby girl. We lost a lot of talent a few years back, but it ended up being a beautiful thing for her. We watched all this talent go and do great things, and we saw that it was the right move for them. And we saw all these offers come in, and you know what I saw my daughter? I watched her do? I watched her cheer them on, excited, and that's when I knew. I told my wife, I said, our kid is special. To watch everybody get their offers way before her, and to see her genuinely excited for them, that's when I said, okay, thank you. I didn't deserve this kid. And then, of course, things picked up for her. But stay the course. And I like what Amber said, Coach said. What's for you is for you. I played NAIA. My wife played NAIA. She's a physician. I like what I do for a living. We still got to where we needed to be. So what's for you is for you. Don't get wrapped up in I've got to play Power 5. Please don't do that, or I got to play at this level. Go where you can play, and the rest will take care of itself.
I want to add to Haskell's story because I'm very a part of that story you just said. Definitely, that's what we're talking about. When the talent split and went the direction, he stayed the course and stayed focused on what was best for his daughter, and she continued to grow and excel. As challenge comes, just like life presents itself, as these kids are growing, acclimating to the adults, you want them to be challenged. You want to sit back and watch how they respond to it. You want to see how the challenge presents itself, and then do they still have the eye of the tiger in it, or what's going to come from this? So when we did part, and she continued to grow and excel, Jacy Abii is one of the best players in the country without any inch of a doubt. The other girls separated, and they found their pathway and continue to grow. But round table, the band is back together again.
I love it. I love it. Well, one, I appreciate y'all for taking time away. Like I said, on the podcast, I have weekly episodes, and a lot of them are college coaches, a lot of them are AAU directors, but not a lot of people talk to the parents. And I had this idea, and actually have decided to do this for July, so I'm doing a tour stop. I'll be at She's Ballin'. Ray actually wants me to do it before the tournament. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for taking time away. My goal is to educate these parents and to give them as much information. I think that you hear a lot, parents don't get it. Kids are different, parents are different. But why not be the solution? Why not try to give them as much information as possible? I don't know if there are any questions. Sorry, I can't get to the live questions because I can't get to my phone. So I will try to answer those later. But if anybody have any questions for any of the parents, we'll go with Tracy.
Okay, parents, how do you guys deal with the criticism versus the positivity that you get?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, Tracy. I'm super so competitive. I take everything to heart, but in a great balance because I understand where we're going. So if something comes to me or it comes to Ryan, we always talk about it. We have that conversation. And I tell her, well, Ryan, you're in a spotlight where you're going to receive this criticism. I was being told something, I'm so competitive. She had a great camp at Adidas, where she just left, but I heard some critique come. I stayed up 30 minutes thinking about it. And I asked myself, why do you still take criticism in that manner? And I think it really comes from what me and Ryan build our foundation off, drive, push, and competitiveness. Me and her has always been super competitive. That's how we grew as a dad-daughter relationship. That's how we bonded. So I think it's healthy. You got to understand it's a part of the journey. Criticism is good and bad, but both of them helps you grow your athlete. For us dealing with the naysayers, you got to understand where it's coming from as well, too. But if you stay true to your focus, just like you build your foundation with your spiritual beliefs or whatever you stand on, once your foundation is strong, nothing breaks it. But remember, everything is great for growth and education and just learning basis.
I love that. And I'm going to add to this competitiveness. So we're Earned Not Given, and Sports Life Talk, shout out to Sports Life Talk. decided to do a AAU fantasy draft. Y'all, Josh called me. This is an AAU fantasy draft, by the way. And he said, what round did Ryan go? So that goes to show you, and I love it. Like, it's how you, it just reminded me of how you do anything is how you do everything. And he wanted to know what round Ryan went in this AAU fantasy draft. Yeah, shout out to Sports Life Talk. I absolutely love the idea. AAU fantasy draft. Next time we're probably gonna do the middle school. But yes, the competitiveness is for sure, and that goes to his daughter as well. I think you have to be competitive to play this sport.
Yeah, so I think it's really important. It's a great question, by the way. And I think it comes down to your belief and then having that conversation with your kids. And so we sat down with McKenzie and really kind of broke it down to her what that looks like, you know, as far as a hater, whatever it may be. And we've explained to her that there's really 3 stages of grief for someone that's going to, you know, hate on your kid or whatever it may be. Usually the first one is jealousy, right? So if someone sees something that they don't have or they want to be at, they're just jealous. You know, it is what it is. It was what it was. And unless they're going to put the work in, it ain't going to be what it ain't going to be. So jealousy. But after jealousy, that's when the problem starts occurring, right? Kind of now transitions into haterade, right? Now they hating hard, right? They slide in other people's DMs, they gossiping or whatever it may be. But here's the great news. Eventually, they can't help themselves, and that hate does eventually turn into admiration, right? Because bottom line is your kid's going to keep doing what your kid's doing. Keep working hard, and they're going to be great. And that hater is eventually going to be their number one fan. So what I like to say when people are hating, hey, here's a free admission to the fan club up there. You'll be there in a little bit, okay? Because that's what's going to happen. So I think just by having that conversation with the kid and explaining it to them, I think it really just helps your kid and it kind of helps your mindset too. And that's reality. And that's not just basketball and sports. That's in life too. You know, you're jealous of someone who don't have what they have, turns into hate, but then eventually like, you know what, I respect that guy. I don't know why I hate on him so much. I respect that young lady. I don't know why I hate on her so much on that part. So that's kind of the conversation that we have with our kid. Yeah.
Any other questions? I guess we should have kept it.
I want to piggyback off of that. I just want to know, what does motivation look like in your household?
Does motivation look like in a household?
Yes. What do you use? How do you use that motivation as the driving force to this crazy world?
Okay, I have this saying that 920, that's the address. Everybody competes for my 6-year-old. I want 4 kids. We motivate each other, but we also compete amongst each other. Yesterday, my 6-year-old ran around our neighborhood, and that's 2 miles, both times. I lied to him and told him that the first time he was going to run, and then the second time he was going to get halfway around. But as I drove in the car, he had to keep running. I can't run with him because I gotta watch him all while he runs. So it's the easiest thing to stay in the car. So the motivational part to answer your question, where it came was, as my 8-year-old was running with my 14-year-old, as he finished his second lap around, he had to go catch her, but my 14-year-old would never let it down that he had to go catch her. So she finished her second lap with energy and challenge, motivating her to move faster, because when they get tired, they always find every excuse of why not to push. But that motivated him. What motivated my 6-year-old is the fact that car kept going and it never stopped for him. So he had to keep going around the neighborhood. So we always been a very, very competitive family, sports driven, education driven. I think me and my wife would do a good job with a perfect balance. Education her, sports me. And we just come around full circle. But at 9-2, you got to compete. And you got to stay motivated. And we stay throughout the household. We keep it competitive so where it always motivates each other.
Man, I always have a story, sorry. So we have 4 kids. I remember we get out of the car when all 4 kids could actually run. So, I didn't have a baby on my hip. and one of the kids goes, first one to the door wins. I mean, I just feel like it's just in your DNA. Like, kids that are just motivated, it starts at the top. Like, until we allow them to sprint to the door, right? And so the first one to touch the door was Sebastian. Well, Caden got pissed off, mad. So they're getting into a full fight because they didn't win, right? They lost. And I was just like, well, you lost, you're a loser. Like, I can't help you with that, right? So that's how we parent. We parent in a way that's like challenging. And there's always a winner, dude. There's always a winner. I don't care how 81 wants to put it. There's always someone at the top. Be at the top. Do everything you can to be at the top. But I would say as far as motivation to me, in our household is us as parents being intentional daily. And I say daily. I am not joking. My daughter gets her dinner and I'm like, you gonna eat that much? Like, you got a game tomorrow, right? We're cooking and we're preparing for the week. Like, we have our workout plan. It's Monday. What you got going on today? It's you sleeping until 11. Boy, you got 2 workouts. Like, it's just being daily. And there was a book I was reading called D1, and it was about D1 parents and what separates. And I say D1 to me. Saying D1 to me just means college level, next level, whatever. But it was their intentionality as parents. And it was a weekly, they talked about weekly and how those days and weeks add up annually. And so I feel like as parents, when you talk about different level, and Haskell could probably say this, is that parents that have kids that are different, it does trickle to the next kid, because the household is intentional with that motivation. So that's good.
Yeah, I love that question because I'm a big motivational type guy, full of energy, and that's how I lead my business and everything like that. So I definitely relate, right? So motivation is great until there's no motivation, right? So we can be as motivated as we want to be, but as soon as something comes up to knock us off, all of a sudden we're not motivated. So I feel like what Amber was saying is at some point we've got to pass the baton from being motivated to being disciplined, And how we be disciplined is putting specific systems and processes in place and make sure that the systems and processes are executed. So if that's putting a game plan down on Sunday for the next week and making sure we hold our kids accountable to that, then that's kind of what we'll do. Because motivation is amazing. I love it. But sometimes it's very short-lived, right? Yeah.
That's good.
And I would just say being transparent. As far as our household goes, we're transparent with our kids. It started early, especially once they hit the teenage years. And with my 2 boys, I speak a lot. We have a lot of great conversations. I share with them my journey with my own career. And as far as the motivation it took for me to push to finally get there, I share the ups and the downs with them. Why? So they'll know that life is not going to be easy, most likely, and it's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of discipline, and I've seen it in their lives. I believe that information has played a part in them driving themselves. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as parents, it's important for us to model and be transparent and sit down with them and actually share with them. You know what, Daddy hadn't always been here. I had to work. I had to get it out of the mud, so to speak. And it took this XYZ. And so I think a lot of times we can be a great resource as well. And you're hoping and praying it rubs off. And just having a competitive household. I believe with my youngest, with Jacy, I think she's benefited from that, being the youngest, behind 2 older boys who didn't give her anything. Had to earn everything. She actually was ready to try to get started in this whole basketball thing a lot earlier than I wanted her to, but watching them play, motivating her. I can do this. I want to do this. And getting in the backyard with them and them not taking it easy on her. Baby boy breaking her finger one year, blocking her shot when she was small. And it just, and she utilized that time to work on her left hand. She said, okay, I can't play, but I can work on my left hand. And now all she does is go left. We got to work on that. Anyway, but anyway, just having a competitive environment, modeling for your kids.
Love it. Any other questions? All right. Well, this has been amazing. We were supposed to go 30 minutes, and it is 1:50. we definitely went way over 30 minutes. Super excited to continue to do this panel so that these parents and players can hear from the direct source. Make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow on Apple, Spotify. If you're not following the page at this point, I really don't know what you're doing. Follow the page. It's just different pods. Subscribe on YouTube. Continue to follow these players. We got Rieyan, that's with Trae Young. We got, I was going to say Amber. We got McKenzie, that's with Trae Young. And then we got Jacy, that's with IFN. All three players are doing an amazing job. Continue to follow them. And make sure you follow the podcast. It's just different pods.